Welcome back. Now joining me for a look at the day's market activities, Anthea Gardner from Cartesian Capital. Anthea, a pleasure and hello to you.
Hi, Nono.
All right, it is December. You'd think things would be a little bit more muted, but there's quite a bit happening. I think central banks are certainly, in the spotlight. Maybe we can start off in England. We saw GDP data coming out of there. Keen to get your thoughts on that, dipping, I think, 0.3%. But overall, also, markets are really anticipating another hold coming out of that part of the world.
Yeah, so the UK GDP number was not great, and I think that this is going to get the central bank to pause on their rate hiking path, should I say. I think their inflation is well above target inflation, but they do understand that any more rate hikes could possibly break the economy, and so they're nervous of that. It's not like the US, where I think they have sufficient reason to pause. I think in the US, the Fed are probably more concerned that the economy may be overheating and that inflation is going to take hold again as soon as they pause. But I think that's the quandary that everyone's in, except us maybe in South Africa, where our economy really is almost broken. And so we have to pause, I think. And our inflation number, kind of, as you would have seen today, really breaking this upward trend, falling to 5.5%, so slightly below expectations, but comfortably below the 5-month high of 5.9%. And really our drivers were, I want to say exogenous, but not all of them were. So the fuel price, of course, that comes from outside. We cannot dictate what oil price is going to do. But we had a nice little drop by 5%. In the fuel index. And of course, this translates into lower transport prices and hopefully lower retail prices for the transporting of goods. The problem we still have is, or is still showing, I should say, is this bird avian flu that we've experienced. So egg prices are 40% higher than last year this time. And I think that is probably going to be a concern. So at 5.5%, we're percent above the Reserve Bank's target. I do think it gives our Reserve Bank reason to pause.
I do hope that that's what we can see moving into 2024, and yeah, it's been a tough one for us all. Of course, we are also looking to the US. There a different picture for the US, and of course, that economy not battling with any strength issues. Really, I would say a tale of two cities. That GDP number is really strong there, but we are seeing, inflation cooling. I'm just keen to get your thoughts on that. It is a bit of a tricky picture, I'd say.
Sure. And I mean, so the markets are pricing in 100% chance of of an unchanged rate from the US. And that doesn't happen often. There's always an outsider who wants to say that either they're going to cut or they're going to hike. But I do think that they have got reason to pause, good reason to pause. What's going to be interesting, I think, with the US is to see where those GDP numbers come out. As I said, that economy looks quite strong, and a strong economy will lead to higher inflation. And I think that would be their real concern. But I think they're just going to give it time now. So it's a pause for now, and they'll give it time to see what happens with any new GDP numbers in the next couple of months.
And then on the other side of the world, in China, we're seeing a very different picture there. I think they met over the weekend. They're very keen to boost domestic demand. I'm not sure what to make of this. It looks like they tried to stimulate the economy during the year, but nothing's quite come of it, hey, Anthea?
There's a lot of talk, but we know that about China. They're quintessentially driven, right? They want to have higher economic growth than any of the other countries. And I think what's come out of this annual Central Economic Work Conference is what it's called. I mean, I have to get my head around that. Is that they're going to focus really, they're looking to stimulate domestic demand. They know that the major global economies are teetering, possibly going into recession in 2024. And they've outlined a number of things. And just to give you an example, so they mentioned that the consumer spending contributed over 83% to economic growth in the first 3 quarters of 2023. And they're going to continue supporting the consumer. Although I want to see how that's going to happen because, the Chinese consumer has an incredible amount of their wealth invested in property. And we all know what happened with the property stocks or companies in China this year. Then they spoke about construction of modern industrial systems, about scientific and technological innovation. They're not hiding the fact that they're back in the space race. In fact, keeping up with and overtaking SpaceX seems to be their goal. I mean, they actually mention SpaceX. And also they're acutely focused on tech-intensive green trio, they call it. So that would be solar batteries, lithium-ion batteries, and electric vehicles. And they're looking for that to be the top driver of foreign trade, basically. And so that's where they're going. Previously, I think they were talking about targeted and forceful GDP growth. Now they're talking about flexible, appropriate, targeted, and effective GDP growth.
Now, I will be watching this one very closely. I mean, the South African economy is really waiting for China to come back online, Anthea. But most importantly, they have a plan. And it sounds like a plan that they can deliver on. So 2024 will be the year to see all of this. We don't have much time left. I'm keen to get your stock pick for this afternoon.
So having told you about what China is looking to do, I'm choosing an AIM-listed company, South African company that's listed on the London AIM, Bushveld Minerals, possibly a turnaround story. This is a share highly correlated to the price of vanadium, which is their main product. And so vanadium is an average hard, so not like platinum, ductile, which means that it can be strung out into thin wire. It's a steel blue metal, which I thought was only a pose from a terrible movie, and can be used obviously in space vehicles, nuclear reactors, aircraft, and it's safer than lithium. So they had a terrible year and they changed their CEO midway through the year. And I'm looking for a recovery in this share, basically. So Bushveld Minerals and Mining is my choice today.
It's a very interesting one. We don't hear of it often. Anthea, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure hearing from you. That was Cartesian Capital's Anthea Gardner taking us through action playing itself out in the equity scene.